Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, Light It Up TV fam. Listen, this is your host, Cheryl, and welcome to another episode of Talk About It Tuesday. I'm so excited for this episode. I know you all say that I say that all the time, but I really am. I'm so excited because in honor of World Teachers Day, that was last month, we are doing an episode, doing a spotlight on a teacher that has taught in the U.S. and now currently teaches in another country. So celebrating World Teachers Day, because listen, our teachers are important, our teachers are valuable, and so we're not going to prolong the time. I want you, if you are on with this video, I want you to share this video out. We'll give about another 2 minutes because I know that the technology piece in terms of when you all seeing this. So if you're seeing this, let me know who you are, okay? Let me know. Say hello to me, all right? If you are on with us, say hello to me. Let me know who you are. Share this video out. I'm doing the same. Share the video out and let people know we are live. We are live, okay? Let everyone know that we are live. Yes. And I will be doing the same thing. We have about always give about 3 minutes at the beginning. Remember, follow us on our YouTube channel. If you are joining us and you are not subscribed to our YouTube channel and you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram, you're missing out, okay? So make sure, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit a thumbs up on this video because it lets other people get to see this video. A lot of other people get to see this video, okay? So, all right. Make sure you're subscribed. Share with somebody else to subscribe. And remember, our Find Your Voice Fridays. That is the last Friday in every month. You all, the kids have been amazing. We are winding up. Can you all believe it's another year? Oh my gosh. If you're just joining us, we're celebrating World Teachers Day. If you are joining us, so tag a teacher. Okay, tag an educator, because this is going to be great. If you've ever wondered what it was like for teachers and students in education in other countries, this is the episode. So tag someone. I know I've always had questions, right? So let's share the video out. All right. I think that is our time, everyone. That is our time celebrating World Teachers Day. All right. I'm going to say again, share this video out. Let everyone know we are live. And that's our time. All right, we are going to get right into our discussion. And this evening, we have with us none other than Miss Terri Pham, who's currently the principal at True North International School in Vietnam. So we're bringing her up right now. Join us in.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome. Hi, Miss Terri. How are you doing?
Hi. I'm doing great. And I'm just honored to be here and honored to talk about what's going on outside of the USA in the education sector.
Yes. Thank you so much. We know that your time is valuable. So thank you so much for joining us. So listen, I want to say, audience, if you have any questions that you have thought about and you've been wondering about teaching in other countries, what is it like? Any questions that you have on your mind, just go ahead and drop them in the comments. All right, drop them in the comments, and whenever you are seeing this, it doesn't matter. Miss Terri she's tagged, so she will be able to see. She might not be able to respond right then if you are watching later, but she will be able to respond. Okay. All right. So Miss Terri, first of all, tell us a little bit about who you are. What is it that you do? Where you are currently? Then we'll get into all the other stuff. But let us know, like, currently, what is it that and how much years you have in education? Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hello, Light It Up I'm Terri Pham. I'm currently serving as the International Elementary Principal at True North International School in Hanoi, Vietnam. And this is I'm going on year 15 and a half overseas out of the USA. I'm currently serving in my fourth country, coming from the classroom, coming from the early childhood classroom to working in curriculum development and support, and now working in elementary leadership. So I've been experiencing a lot over the past decade in education, and there's an array of things to talk about in the comparison and just how things look from various viewpoints around the world.
Listen, and we are and how many years was that you said, Terri?
Since January 2010 is when I left the USA. So
wow, 2010. Oh my gosh. And how long have you been in education altogether?
Since I was 18. Since I was 18, I started working as a preschool teacher when I was 18 years old. So I'm going I'm almost telling my age. How do I tell my age? It's been well over 20 years.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. Listen, that's a long time to be in education. 18 as a preschool teacher?
Yes.
18 as a preschool teacher. Wow. Okay. Wow. All right. So listen, Terri, I want to, first of all, I want to let our viewers know, our audience know, the reason why we're having this discussion is we're going to focus on some of the similarities, as Terri mentioned, and some of the differences of teaching in the U.S. and abroad. And Terri she's done both. I met Terri in a group. Actually, I saw her in a group, and as you all know, I always pray next to Lord. Who is it that He wants to be on? And just sort of scrolled down and was praying, and she stood out. And I was like, "Okay, Lord, my prayer. If this is who you want on, let her reach out." And she didn't know if it was real or not, but it was actually in a group because I thought about teaching abroad, right? And Terri was wondering about it as well. I thought about teaching abroad, so I had joined this group of what is the group, Terri?
Oh, there's so many. I think it was one of maybe the educators abroad groups or women abroad groups.
Yes. It was one of the groups on Facebook, you all. And that's how we met, and we connected, we talked, and I was just like, wow, yes, this is definitely who the Lord wanted to have on. So I wanted to share this as well. Before we get into the nuts and bolts of our discussion, World Teachers Day is a recognition and appreciation for teachers around the world. It's an occasion to celebrate the profound impact that teachers have on society by equipping students with the skills, knowledge, and values that's needed for success. So teachers, they have a great impact, right? They can have a great impact, and when they love what they do. Right, when they have a heart for children, and when you all hear Terri, you're going to realize that God has called her. This is what she's supposed to be doing. So, all right, Terri, I want to ask our audience before you get started. Audience, what do you all know? How do you celebrate teachers around the world? Oh, this is good. There you go. How do you celebrate teachers around the world? Okay, this is what audience. Let us know. How do you celebrate teachers around the world? And also, what do you know? Do you know anything? What do you think or know about schools and teaching and education in the U.S. versus other countries? Okay, what are you curious about? Let us know. Put in the comments right now, because Terri's going to start. But I want to know, what do you think or know? Well, how do you think it is? What is it that you know? All right, you may know somebody that's over there. Okay, so let us know. All right, so Terri, the first thing is I want you to tell us, you have an array of experience, a vast, and I want you to tell us, I want you to start with teaching in the U.S. Tell us about your different experiences in the U.S. and all of the different countries that you have been to teaching. I know your story is grand. So, like, give us a little.
I'll give a snapshot.
Yeah, a little snapshot. Okay.
So as well, Vietnamese Teachers Day is November 20th, and it's a really big day. So the fun thing is, around the world, there's World Teachers Day, and then every country celebrates in special ways. They have different teachers' days around the world on different dates. So that's the fun part.
Wow.
You get to celebrate teachers all year in so
Wow,
many
I
ways.
didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yes.
So do you all do World Teachers Day like in October or no? Is that
World Teachers Day, but the Vietnamese Teachers Day is really big.
oh,
The gifts, the
wow.
flowers, the discounts, the advertisements are going out the past week.
So what is that? Yeah, tell us a little bit before what is that? So is it like the whole week or the day?
It's a day, but leading up to it, similar to Mother's Day in the US,
Uh-huh.
there would be a lot of advertisements and discounts, coupons, vouchers, a
Uh-huh.
lot of people selling gift packs on the streets and the stores and flowers because teachers are honored very
Mhm.
highly and set at a very high standard here.
Wow.
So this will be my first time celebrating it in Vietnam, but prior in other countries,
Mhm.
Teachers Day is really big. It's like Mother's
Wow.
Day for teachers.
Really? I love that. Did you all listen, audience? Did you all know about that? Did you all know that that was a thing of actual each country had their own Teachers Day and how big it is? All right. So Terri, tell us about this experience that is
Okay.
teaching in the U.S.,
Mhm.
teaching tell us around, go around. Let us know
Yes.
where you've been.
So I'll start with my experience in the US, which started
Mhm.
in Montgomery, Alabama. I
Mhm.
started at a church Mother's Day Out program, a church Mother's
Wow.
Day Out preschool program.
Mhm.
And that's where I had most of my experience was more private schools, religion-based schools in the
Okay.
US. And
Uh-huh.
then I did a lot of substituting with private schools affiliated with churches, as well as some public schools substituting.
Uh-huh.
But that the substituting lasted about a year and a half before I departed in
Okay.
2010.
Okay.
Yes. In my experience, most of it focused on early childhood programs. So I
Mm,
worked with
okay,
children
okay.
from the age of 2 to 5,
Mhm.
primarily in the US. And some of
Okay.
my substitute experience went up to grade 3.
Okay,
That was
okay.
my max at the time in the US. Go to grade 3.
Now, did
But
you know
then
you wanted to go into education? I don't mean this, I'll stop you. Did you know is that something that you knew, like, I wanted to be a teacher? Is that what you went to school? And, like, this is something I know I wanted to do?
yeah, so I knew I wanted to be a teacher since I was in 2nd grade. So
Wow.
anybody that has known me, I was always either organizing and playing school in the neighborhood or with family, but I've always wanted to be a teacher. It was
Wow.
astronaut and scientist, but I figure if I was a teacher, I can teach about these things and learn about these things. So
That's right.
I've always wanted to be an educator. Working with children has
Wow.
always been a big part of who I felt what I was called to do.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so your experience was a lot of early childhood, maybe some up to 3rd grade in the US, and then from there then from there you went to
South Korea. So I know we had a brief conversation
Yeah.
when we first met about what prompted me to go
Yes,
overseas.
yes.
So 2 weeks before graduating from undergrad, I had a
Uh-huh.
dream, and
Wow.
it was my first memorable dream that felt like a
Mhm.
calling to me.
Wow.
Because after waking from that dream, on my mind it was South Korea. Explore this
Wow.
place. Go to this place. You must go. And I didn't have a connection to South Korea. I've never been out of the USA before.
Uh-huh.
Um, I didn't know much about the country at all. And I couldn't tell
Uh-huh.
if it was because the Hyundai plant was in Montgomery, Alabama, and it was still new. And I was curious in my brain. But
Uh-huh.
the calling and the dream felt so strong that I
Mhm.
started to research.
Wow.
And that was December 2009.
Wow.
I started to research, and Google is still new. So I
Uh-huh.
would research and then I would talk about it to people, and they were like, "Why would you do that? That doesn't make sense." But the more I
Right, so
started
your
to research,
family how did your family take that?
um, let's see, I left within a year and 1 month of me dreaming and saying I'm going, which was pretty fast. That went by really fast.
Uh-huh.
Um, Everyone was confused as to why.
Yeah.
And I didn't second guess my gut feeling of knowing that there was something in me that was telling me to go and that it meant
Mhm.
something.
Mhm.
Because when I tried to navigate into a professional
That's what
career in the
exactly I was
States in
gonna ask.
education,
Uh-huh.
every door closed, which was just made no sense. There are
Uh-huh.
so many teaching positions, there are so many opportunities,
Mhm.
but every door closed. And for
Wow.
me, that was a sign like, nope, I
Wow.
don't want you here. Nope, I don't want you here. Keep going,
Wow.
keep following.
Wow.
And there were a lot of distractions, but
Uh-huh.
once I removed the distractions and continued, the interviews kept opening, the opportunities were popping up, they were popping out of
Wow.
nowhere. I was getting emails on Craigslist. I started discovering an array of teaching jobs,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
most of them were South Korea.
Wow.
And so
Wow.
I continued the process. I kept researching. I did interviews at night, which was strange for
Wow.
me. Because I didn't have anyone living overseas, so I never had that connection of talking to someone that
Uh-huh.
was
Uh-huh.
with a time difference. And I remember getting 3 offers. I actually had an interview while I was working at the church at First Baptist Church, Montgomery, Alabama.
Uh-huh.
Um, I went into, I think I was getting off early,
Mhm.
or getting off. I was getting off, and I stayed at the church to have my interview.
I want to
On my
interject right there.
laptop.
If you are just joining us, if you have any questions for our host Terri, drop them in the comment section. We are celebrating World Teachers Day. If you are just joining us, tag a teacher. This is some great information, some great discussion, some just being able to hear about Terri's story and her experiences teaching across the country. She's just getting into it. All right. So, listen, if you're just joining us, say hello to me, share it out. We're celebrating World Teachers Day, and our guest is Miss Terri Pham, who's currently in Vietnam. All right. So, she's telling us her story about how she felt that calling, right, to
Yeah.
teach in South Korea. All right. Go ahead.
Yes. And so I went through the application process. I accepted the offer, and the next steps were,
Mhm.
okay, what do I do next? How do I get there? What is the paperwork like? And the paperwork process was pretty lengthy and time
Mhm.
consuming. But the
Mhm.
blessing in it all was I lived in the capital of Alabama, and the
Okay.
capital is where you can get most of your paperwork done. So I
Yes.
didn't have to go through traveling. So I was able to
Uh-huh.
get notarized documents and things of that nature done. And I would drive back and forth to Atlanta, to the closest Korean
Wow.
consulate, to have my interview for my
Wow. From
visa.
Alabama to Atlanta, you drove back and
Yeah, so
forth.
about 2 hours,
Wow.
about 2 hours. And I
Wow.
do
Uh-huh.
recall with this job, you had to pay for your own flight over, and they would
Okay.
reimburse you. And
Uh-huh.
at that time, that the flight just it was a lot of money for me. It's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
that's more than a car note. I got a more than rent. So I
And
felt
how old
very
were you at this
blessed.
time, Terri? How old were you?
I was 25.
Wow. Okay, go
Mhm.
ahead.
I said, I don't really have that kind of money
Uh-huh.
to buy my ticket. And a woman, Lindsay Nash. Hi, Lindsay. I hope you'll be able to watch this. She said she was from Tennessee, and she had been
Wow.
overseas for a couple of years teaching English. And she said, Terri, I trust that you would do well, and you're supposed to be here. I'm going to buy your ticket, and you pay me back later. And
Wow.
that was my green light to say, okay, Terri, you're supposed to do this.
Yep.
This is
Yeah,
the
this is
one
what
door
God
that
wanted
keeps
you to
opening.
do.
So
Yeah.
I flew out, I believe I flew out on January 25th from
Uh-huh.
Atlanta. I arrived late at night to Korea. January, it's cold. There's snow. There's no snow in Alabama during this time of year. And there was an older man holding a sign with my name. And I was like, okay, this is
Wow.
it. I had 2
Uh-huh.
duffel bags.
Uh-huh.
He didn't speak English. I only know how to say annyeonghaseyo. He
Oh,
handed
wow.
me a
No.
Snickers and a Coke and a Coca-Cola and a can of coffee. And we smiled at
Uh-huh.
each other, and I got in the car. And all I'm thinking is like, this is bizarre. It's night, it's cold. I
Uh-huh.
don't know where I'm going.
Uh-huh.
But that's where my story started. And I was working at Canada International School, which ended up
Uh-huh.
being a private English school for a year, and developed close relationships with the families. I visited one of my students in Korea last year. He's in university now. I was his
Okay.
first teacher at the age of 5, and we still have a close relationship. So that was the beginning of my
Wow.
overseas journey.
Wow. And so now you said, and I think I asked this question. You said the name of the school was Canada
International school. So in my
Okay.
mind, from America, I was like, oh, this school is for Canadians.
Right. This is why.
Maple leaf. And I got my first day there. I had to go in the very next day. Meanwhile, I arrived maybe 11, 12, just very late at night. And I get there and I'm looking
And the
around.
next day you had to go in?
The next day. The next day I had to go in.
To teach?
Yes. It was hit the ground running immediately. Yes.
Wow. Okay. So what was it like? What was it like briefly in South Korea? Like when you got there, what was it like? Give us is it a lot of technology? Is it the classroom? What are the sizes of the classrooms? Did you have someone to help you? Did they understand you? How did that piece? Okay.
So I had an assistant teacher. She was Korean, Kelly No. We're still in contact. She spoke fluent English and Korean. She was amazing. And so I had other foreign colleagues as well. And the school, the primary grade was kindergarten and first grade, and then later in the day the older elementary students would come for their English classes. But it was like a home. It was like a family, a community there, because it was a very small school. And we all worked pretty closely together. Everyone was so helpful, so polite.
Wow. Okay.
I was overwhelmed by coming from Alabama, where we used a car for everything, to walking. So my legs became very strong.
So you walked to work?
I walked to work. And
How long was that?
The first week.
Okay, so that's a difference, teachers, parents. That's a difference. Okay, because we cannot. I don't know anyone that walks to work.
Walk to work. And I walk to work now. And walking to work is absolutely normal now. But I remember the first week, I didn't check the weather. I didn't know what to expect, and I walked outside, and it was white everywhere. My first week, and I was like, I know how to walk. I know where to go. And I was terrified because there was so much snow. And I have on these Crocs boots. I don't think Crocs makes boots anymore. They make boots. And somehow had these boots. And I'm shuffling like slowly. It took me a very long time to get to work.
Wow.
Because I was terrified of falling. But,
wow. Okay. So this is South Korea, right? Okay. Yes. So how long did you stay in South Korea teaching? And what were the sizes of your classroom?
So this particular class, the Bambi class, actually, I believe I had 12 students.
Okay.
It was 12 students, yes.
And did they speak English at all?
Just enough. They spoke enough. They spoke enough for Terri teacher. And they called me Terri teacher. And they were the sweetest children. And one of the first things that stood out with the difference between US and here, I would sit down, the kids will come. Okay, teacher, are you tired? And there'll be one here, one on my back, one on my legs. They're giving me massage. And I'm sitting there like, they're not supposed to touch the teacher. We're not supposed to touch the teacher.
Right. Because listen, in the US, that is teachers, parents, like you do not, we keep our distance from.
Yes, we keep our distance.
Right. Okay.
And so my first few months, I was always like, okay, don't touch. Okay, no, but it's culturally, they're touchy. And then my assistant, she's like, Terri, it's okay. They like to massage the teacher's arms and legs. You're tired. And I'm like, okay. It took me a while to get over that because it's such a no-no, in the USA.
Wow. Listen,
but that was one of the funny moments.
Did you all know that, audience? I did not. You see television shows, right? And that is something that you see on TV, but to hear that this is really what. So is it this is really what is happening? Is it their way of
colleagues will walk up to you in Vietnam as well. They'll walk up to you, massage your shoulders. How are you feeling? Like everyone it's a comfort thing. It's like we know you're
Wow.
sitting, we know you're stressed. Okay, here's a massage while we're meeting.
Are you serious?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Okay, teachers, tell us what you think about that. Teachers that any
It's a
teachers that are
difference. It's a
on,
big difference.
do you know there are many cultural differences abroad for teachers? Did you all know
Mhm.
about the cultural differences? That is a big one. That is a big one
Yes.
because in
Yes.
the US, you get in a report, you get
Yes. Yes. We
if
get
they're
written
sitting,
up. Yes.
you're
It's
written up,
different.
right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that's wow.
It's
That is
different.
amazing. Okay. If you are an educator or someone who's considered teaching in another country, tell us about it. If you've ever
Yes.
thought about teaching in another country, tell us about it and what were your reasons. Terri said that she felt that there was a calling that she had. What were your reasons? If you know someone that's taught abroad, what were their reasons? All right, so Terri, you were in South Korea. Where'd you go next? How long were you in South Korea?
I was in South Korea for 4.5 years. After a year at this private English school, I navigated into the international school market, not knowing that there were international schools abroad. I
So
only ever
what
heard
do you
about.
mean by that? Explain that
Yes.
to us.
So, in the US, we hear about DOT schools, the Department of Defense schools, or military based schools. But outside of
Uh-huh.
there are thousands of international private schools that are
Mhm.
designated for foreign passport holders, or some not don't all don't require foreign passport holders, but they're
Mhm.
international schools that give an international educational experience. And so I navigated to an early childhood school, which I absolutely loved and developed lifelong friendships from that school for my last 3.5 years in Korea.
So I want to stop you. I want to make sure that everyone's understanding. So you said there are Department of Defense. They call them DOD schools, right?
Yes. Mhm.
And then there are what is the other one?
So these
International.
are schools that are not affiliated with the USA. And prior to me leaving the USA, I didn't know that there were private schools for foreigners that were not affiliated with the USA, because it's not something that was talked about.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Mhm.
and so there's so many schools there. They're for the foreign companies that are in different countries. In the school that I was at, there were a lot of ambassadors, embassy workers. There were a lot of General Motors and Ford workers whose children went to that school. A lot of private
Oh,
companies from
they're
the
from the
hotels, the
US,
banking
but they are
industries.
working. Oh gosh, they're from. Well, I'm getting excited. They're from the US and they work there, and so there's a school for their children because they're foreigners. There's a school for their children because their children are not from South Korea or Vietnam or wherever. Is that
Yes,
correct?
so from all over the world. We had over 30 nationalities and under 140 students with over 30 nationalities.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. Okay. So you were in South Korea, and then where else did you go? Because I know you told me you were in
Yes.
like Dubai area. So it's like middle. I
So
don't know where.
after South Korea, I ventured
Uh-huh.
to the Middle East.
Middle East.
And
Yes. Okay.
the Middle East. So I had an offer in
I was gonna
Egypt.
ask
I
you,
had an
why did you
offer in
leave?
Saudi Arabia.
Uh-huh.
I
Were
weighed
there
both
any?
options. Yes. And at the time, you cannot just freely travel to Saudi Arabia. So I chose Saudi because I figured, well, I can go there now.
Right, right.
I can go there for a job, so I can
What
experience
made you
that. No.
transition to leave South Korea? Did you just want to just like let me see what other parts of the country is like?
So in 2000, like the fall 2013, a lot of I had a lot of close friends there. We had a
Okay,
group,
okay.
Brothers and Sisters of South Korea. Shout out to everyone there around the world. A lot of us still keep in contact with each other.
Uh-huh.
But we just had a blast and an amazing time
Okay.
connecting with each other for a few years. And then
Mhm.
people started to drift away, and it just didn't feel the same anymore. I
Okay.
was feeling like it's time to move.
Okay.
You get into where you don't feel like you're growing anymore. You need another push.
Right. Yes, yes.
So I
Okay, so you
ventured off
ventured.
and went
Okay,
to
to the
Saudi
Middle East.
Arabia
Okay.
in the middle of nowhere,
Now,
north of
how is
Jeddah.
that different? Let us know. Tell us what that because we
Oh
have
yeah,
a glimpse of South Korea. Tell
yeah.
us about teaching in Saudi Arabia. How is that different from South Korea? How is that different from the US? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah. So Saudi Arabia, I was north of Jeddah in King Abdullah Economic City, which was
Mhm.
along the Red Sea, an absolutely
Wow.
beautiful small town, very new, so still under construction, in a very big school. So this school was a
And did you say
pre-K.
the Red Sea? Oh
The Red Sea. I
my
have to send pictures.
wow.
So looking out the window on the treadmill at the Red Sea from the gym in our building, or just the view was beautiful. But
Wow.
I
Okay.
honestly, we used to call it a beautiful prison because that's what it
Wow.
felt like. It did feel like a
Wow.
beautiful prison, a
Mhm.
bit isolated from everything else that was going on. And our school
Mhm.
was still fairly new.
Mhm.
So I taught kindergarten there. There were 2 kindergarten classes,
Mhm.
and we had
Mhm.
up to, I believe, 26 students. Um, Compared to South Korea, my last school, I
Uh-huh.
had 16 students. 16
Wow.
students,
So
2
16,
full-time teachers.
26, and this is kindergarten, 26 children in
Yes,
the classroom, in Saudi Arabia. And did you have an assistant?
off and on. Off and on
Really?
assistant. The biggest difference though, the class size was big, but the hours were shorter because the students
Mm.
lived further away and the bus ride was long. So I want to
Wow.
say school ended a little bit before 1 o'clock. I want to say before 1 o'clock, something to that
And what time did it
extent.
start?
Between 7:45 and 8:30, I believe. Yes.
Wow. How long was the bus ride for the children to get to school
Mhm. So
approximately?
some of the kids' bus ride was 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
And the nationalities at this particular school were Saudi, Egyptian, Pakistani, Indian,
Mhm. Mhm.
I believe Bangladesh,
Wow.
and some other countries. But a lot of the students from Pakistan and India lived north of the city. And because the city was on the coast, there was no
Mhm.
road on the coast. You had to go inland and then get to the main road. So the transportation was pretty complicated
Wow.
in that area.
Wow. So what was and listen, if you all have any specific questions while Terri is sharing these experiences, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. Drop them in the comment section. I know we're recording because of the time difference. We recorded this at a different time, but we are airing this live. So we're in the comments and we're definitely able to interact with you all in the comment section. Okay. So if you have any specific question for Terri, go ahead and drop them in the comment section. I have so many, I will probably won't be able to ask them all because listen, and that's like I'm hearing more and more even different things as we're talking now. So Terri, I remember you saying in South Korea how the students were, how they, were very caring for the teachers. We're celebrating World Teachers Day. If you're just joining us, what, what, how are the students in the, how are the students there and the other teachers there? What was that experience like?
In Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Okay. It was different. It was different coming from in Korea, the parents were very supportive. They were very involved. They were
Mm-hmm.
often on campus. In Saudi Arabia, there was major disconnect. A lot of parents working or parents did not view their interaction with the school the same. Also, the big difference was roles of the family. Most of
Mm.
the time, I communicated with the dads um,
Wow.
by messaging or email. The moms, a lot of moms did not get involved in talking
Really?
about the things at school and communicating about the children. And it depended on the family. So there was a very wide range of types of families and their views
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
gender roles in Saudi
Wow.
Arabia.
That is wow. Listen now, because we've all know, I guess the idea of the roles right in the
Mhm.
Middle East. I didn't know that. I didn't think it was like that with school and
Yeah,
education because of the fact that when you think of education, the dads are out working in our culture, and the moms are the ones that are making sure that they're communicating with the children. Did you
yeah.
all know that, audience? Did
Mhm.
you all know that cultural difference in the Middle East, where so most of your contact, you would say majority of your contact in the Middle East was definitely with the dads and not
Yeah.
with the mothers.
If there was
Wow.
a meeting, they were both come, but the mom will sit in a certain area sometimes or sit
Mhm.
behind, but they would not communicate with me. Yes. Mhm.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Well,
So
listen, that's
various, and then some
eh,
did.
uh-huh, uh-huh,
Yes.
uh-huh. So where do you feel that in the Middle East, do you think that the same value was placed on teachers as it was in South Korea?
I dealt with various cases.
Mhm,
Some because we had the various ethnic backgrounds of our
mhm,
students. Some
mhm,
held the education to a very high standard, and others, depending on the family situation, it's like once they got to
mhm.
school, they're in your hands.
Wow.
Don't
Re
talk to us. Don't bother us. You
really?
can deal with that. Yes.
Wow.
Uh, and so I dealt with when it came to behavior issues
Uh-huh.
and issues with um, support, learning support, behavioral
Right.
support. When I
Uh-huh.
got to Saudi, that was very different for me. That was new. Um, and there was some struggles with a lot of students. There were some major
Really?
because the parent support and communication was not there. So, us educators, we were left to deal with it ourselves.
So
Yes.
did the children that's a good question that I always wanted to know, were there behavior issues in the
Hmm.
schools in the Middle
Definitely.
East and South
Yeah,
Korea?
there were not behavior issues in South Korea. Besides, I had my very techie kindergartners that knew the passwords to my devices and wanted to check my messages.
Wow.
But I didn't deal with behavior issues at the kindergarten in Korea, but in Saudi Arabia, I had a lot of issues with safety, with students running away, having to chase them,
Really?
um, students aggressive, physically aggressive, fighting, um,
Fighting each other?
screaming, um, fighting each other, trying to fight the teacher, screaming. There are a lot of undiagnosed issues with several of my students in Saudi
Mhm.
Arabia. And the support plan was okay, let's come up with it. Let's figure it out
Wow.
because most of them, all they had was the school
So did
to
they have,
support.
like, school psychologists and that could come in and evaluate, like, what they have here and a team
No,
of people, what they no, that was not.
absolutely not. In Saudi Arabia, there was absolutely no support. We had ELL support for English language support, but there
Mhm.
was no counseling service, behavioral support, social emotional learning.
Wow.
As far as learning disabilities and things of that nature,
Mhm,
there was no
mhm.
support. And we had a lot of cases to where we were dealing with them on our own,
Wow.
making support plans ourselves.
Wow.
And some we would keep longer. As I said
Mhm.
before, the kindergartners left school early, but
Okay.
some we would keep early. I might keep longer to
Mhm,
do some
mhm,
tutoring or
mhm.
extra practice with them
Mhm.
to try to help. Some of
Right,
the
right.
strategies were effective, but there were some barriers that we could not break because we didn't have all the answers for the students as
Wow.
to what was going on.
How long did you stay in Saudi Arabia in Saudi Arabia, Middle East area?
2 years.
2
Yes.
years.
2 years. 2 years. And there was a break during that time because it was a very stressful environment, and I suddenly became very ill, and I needed to go to the USA for emergency surgery. And my employer told me, "Go, you'll still have your job. You come back when you're well." So I was away for about
Wow.
4.5 months in the
Wow.
US because I refused to go under medical surgery in the Saudi.
I know that's right.
It was, yes, the information that doctor was giving me was completely opposite of, and I couldn't imagine having gone through that.
Wow.
That would have been a very big difference in my life had I stayed in Saudi for medical treatment versus going to the States.
Whew. Wow. So I guess my question is, what made you stay that long?
I wanted to finish my contract. Not just that, I developed some really close relationships with colleagues in the
Uh-huh,
community.
uh-huh.
And I did a lot of work in the
Mhm.
community in King Abdullah Economic
Okay.
City.
Okay.
I taught Zumba classes,
Wow.
as well
Uh-huh.
as led a lot of community service projects.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so
Love it.
my contract was 2 years. So for me,
Uh-huh.
it was the first year you get your feet wet. The second year is you
Gotcha.
decide
Gotcha. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. All right. So from South Korea, Middle East, and where do we go after that?
to Shanghai, China.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And then
Listen,
back
this
to Asia.
is okay. So tell us about that.
So Shanghai was a very different experience
Uh-huh.
from both schools because every school got bigger. um,
Wow. So
so
Terri, I
the,
want to ask a question. So
yes,
before you, so there's Shanghai, and then after Shanghai is where? Well, I want to see how much time we
Hanoi, where I
6
am
minutes.
now, is
Okay,
where I
all
am
right.
now,
So
country number 4.
all right. Sorry, let's go Shanghai, and then we want to get to Vietnam. Tell us about China, and
Yes.
then tell us okay.
So
How
Shanghai
did
was one
that?
of the largest schools I've worked in. And I was on a team of 5 teachers compared to coming from a team of, it was a team of 2 in Saudi. Then I went
Uh-huh.
to a team of
Uh-huh.
5 kindergarten teachers. I taught
Wow.
kindergarten there from 2016 until 2020. And then I
Wow.
moved into curriculum coordinator role
Uh-huh.
was my last
Okay.
role there. In this school, Concordia International School, Shanghai, is operate one of the Lutheran Church of Missouri's schools, international schools.
Okay.
So this school,
And the
coincidentally,
international means that this is a school for English speaking children whose parents are actually working in that area. Is that correct?
yes, they're foreign passport holders. So
Foreign
born
passport
abroad.
holders.
So
Okay.
their passport is foreign to China.
Okay. Okay.
Um, some of the families that were at the school in Seoul in South
Uh-huh.
Korea were
Uh-huh.
at this school. So I got to
Wow.
see one of my first kindergartners graduate from high school
Wow. Oh my
in
goodness.
Shanghai.
Listen,
So
if you
everything
all have
became full circle. So many people,
oh
we were
my
connected in many
God.
countries. Mhm.
Wow. If you all have any questions, listen, drop them in the comments because Terri is giving us all this information about South Korea and the Middle East uh, and China and Vietnam. If you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments because I want to know, like, I want to know which was her most challenging. I think I sort of have an idea. What is the most challenging, and which one was it that she would say most similar to the U.S., if any, if any. And then we want to talk
Mhm.
about. We talked about parent support, but I want to ask you all, parents, as she was talking about the concerns there. I wanted to ask you all, what are some of the biggest concerns that you all have in the classroom for your elementary children? What are some of the biggest concerns? She's talking as she's talking. I want you to put in there. Do you see? She said that there was a concern with in the Middle East with the kids fighting in South Korea. It sounds like there wasn't too many behavior issues. In the Middle East, she said that was, as you shared, Terri, that the fighting, the undiagnosed, the I guess the sort of lack of as I guess not as much
Services and
uh,
acknowledgement and services. Yes.
acknowledgement
And
services and support
education.
from
Yes.
parent and education. So as
Mhm.
teachers and or parents, if you're an educator, what would you say are the biggest concerns in the classroom of elementary children? Here, let's see what that looks like. Let's see
Mhm.
what you all have to say versus what Terri is telling us about these other countries, right? So go ahead and put that in the chat. Put that in the chat.
Mhm.
So Terri, you're in China and it's an international school for foreign passport holders. And there's 5 teachers. How many children are in the classroom?
So we had 20, maximum 20
Okay.
students in the classroom
Okay.
with a teacher assistant, a full-time teacher assistant. So there
Full
are
time.
two teachers.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. So that's similar because I know
Yeah.
in the U.S. here that we have kindergarten and kindergarten teachers have assistants. Okay, what else? Tell us what else was that? How
Yeah.
else was that experience like?
So that experience, when it comes to resources,
Uh-huh.
so many resources, just
Wow.
resources galore. Everything you
Mhm.
can think of was readily available. There was enhanced technology and technology improvements.
Mhm.
The English language support teachers, that was something that was continuing to improve and restructure throughout the years that I was there, because I spent
Uh-huh.
7.5 years there. And
Wow.
also the student support services is something that
Uh-huh.
was continued to be enhanced. And one of the
Mhm.
biggest challenges was there was no structure for support services really culturally. A lot of the support services for students were started by foreigners, by foreign companies.
Okay.
So,
Uh-huh.
our schools did have partnerships with some of these support service companies,
Mhm. Mhm.
and we had early diagnosis screenings for our
Okay.
younger students, and that was very helpful. It happened in the beginning of the year, and
Okay.
parents just had to give consent and pay a small fee, but that provided a
You have to pay a
snapshot
fee?
as to
They had to pay a
yes,
fee?
yes,
Oh,
because
that's
these are all
different.
business. Mhm,
Oh,
yes.
that's okay. Okay, because there's no
Um,
fee involved.
yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So this allowed the teachers to have a better background, and also parents to see if there were any
Mhm.
developmental issues that arose so that we can address them early on. So
Okay.
those services, although they were still minimal, there was still something
Mhm.
in Shanghai,
Okay.
some service that you can, with speech pathologists, occupational
Oh,
therapists,
wow. Okay.
things of that nature, but not in the school. So an outside service that will work with the school.
Okay. So again, as teachers and parents, what would you say are the biggest concerns in the classroom of elementary children here in the US? Did they have behavior problems there, Terry, in China?
Yes.
They did. They
Yes.
Terry smiled with that.
Yes, there are behavior problems,
Yes.
ranges of behavior problems.
Uh-huh.
I recall, even as my first year, again, depending on the culture, because this is a school made up of various backgrounds,
Okay. Uh-huh.
Taiwanese, families from Hong Kong, families from US, families from Canada, Korea,
Uh-huh.
Japan,
Uh-huh.
India.
Uh-huh.
I remember one of my families from Taiwan. She would message me at night, "Can you please tell such and such to go to bed?" And I'll be looking like, "Oh, I'm off. I'm off now. It's my bedtime." But that's what the teacher says.
Really?
Like, you gotta listen to the teacher, or don't do that. I'm gonna tell Miss Terry. You don't want me to tell Miss Terry. In which,
So
in
that's
our
the opposite.
culture,
Okay, hold on.
yes,
So the
no, the
parent,
opposite, right?
right? The parents would be saying, "Don't you don't want me to tell the teacher."
Exactly. But that
In the
was complete
U.S.,
opposite with a lot of families.
is the teacher say, "You don't let me have to call home to your parent," right? In most cases.
Mhm.
Wow. So you would have parents listen, teachers in the US. What would that be like if your parent
I
called you
know.
to tell their child to go to bed? What would that be like? Okay.
Yes.
Terry, so
Yeah.
what would you do?
That was my first year, and of course, I was in a voice recording. I was in a voice recording to her. Um, but these were families that were, um, their children were new to the English language. Their kindergarten,
Oh,
they were very.
wow.
We had an open door policy back then. After
Uh-huh.
school, when it was time to go home, the parents will all come into my classroom, and the classroom became an after school cafe, and they will all hang out and talk because they had time to do
They
that.
would talk amongst
Um,
each other, or are they trying to
yes,
talk
the
to
parents
you?
would talk. They would talk to each other. They would talk to me. The kids will sit and read books. It was just it was truly a community type thing.
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and
Okay,
then
so
once COVID hit, that went away.
okay, so you were there during the pandemic.
Yes.
Wow. Briefly, what happened? How was that
If I
like?
can be brief, it's very hard to be brief because China was
Okay.
a very different timeline from the
Okay.
rest of the world.
Okay. Okay.
I will say we were online learning from January 2020
Mm-hmm.
until August 2020. But my family was stuck outside of China because a lot of the pandemic was announced during the Chinese New Year holiday, in which
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the biggest holidays in Asia. So a lot of things closed down. It's a big holiday,
Mm-hmm.
but during that time, it it became a ghost town to where it was don't go out. There's a sickness. Be careful. And it was on Chinese New Year. Actually, a colleague was at our house. And by this time, see, my story is so long. I'm married. I have a child. I have a 1-year-old, and we just came back from the States from winter vacation. So it's
Wow.
January, 2 weeks later. We're making noodles and dumplings, handmade noodles and dumplings, and we're getting all these messages popping up on our phones. And they're like, "Oh, school is closed until further notice." I'm like, "What? What does that mean?"
Wow.
Like,
You had no clue what was
different.
going on.
And we said, "Okay, let's just buy groceries and stock up." So we bought groceries. The next day, we stock up. We're unpacking our groceries. And I remember a friend who was a native Chinese but married an American, and she had 2 children. And she's like, "I would tell you if I feel the need to go, then I'm going to tell you." Because she would say, "We'll
Wow.
be fine." But
Wow.
I remember her messaging me. She said, "You have a daughter. We have 2 kids. We're going to go. You should consider
Wow.
going." And
Wow.
it was so confusing. We're like, "We just got back. We just bought all this stuff. We were going to just lock it down for
Wow.
about a week in the house." But
Yeah.
within 48 hours, we were buying flights one way. I don't think we had, did we have, I don't remember if we had one way. Maybe we had a
Mm-hmm.
round trip.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember, to the US, thinking we were just going to be there for 2 weeks and then head back, which everyone thought, okay, let's just
Right.
pop over somewhere else. Um,
So
and
you
then we'll
came
head
home.
back.
Did you come home
Yes,
to
I
Alabama?
went to Alabama.
And
And that was a
you stayed
long
there?
process. It was a long process
Wow.
because we ended up teaching, everyone was all over the world. We were all teaching online from various time zones, the children, the teachers, everybody.
Yeah, how did you do that? How did you do that?
I still have, I said one day I have to make a movie. So I'm in the US being this normal in the daytime or planning in the daytime. My sisters, all my sisters and mom worked in schools. So we were all
Okay.
just at home, working from
Wow.
home.
Uh-huh.
And so my sister will be my camera woman, and she'll record me reading a book or doing a lesson,
Wow.
anywhere we could. Anywhere and
Wow.
everywhere. I was on the computer teaching, but I was doing it at night, at
Wow.
night or early in the morning because of the time
Wow.
zone. But then
So
I
it
had
wasn't live teaching, it was just you had to record and upload videos or something?
a mixture of both. A
Mixture of
mixture of
both.
both. I had some students
Wow.
that were, I think I had got down to 5 or 6 time zones. So then I had to group my students and set up my Zoom calls and instruction
So you were
with the time
teaching
zone,
literally like all throughout the day or in different time
day and
zones?
night, depending on the time zones.
Now, teachers, parents, do you all remember that during that time of the pandemic? It was really tough and hectic for the teachers. I actually started a center during that time to try to help parents out that were going to school and their kids were online. But listen, that is a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level of stress and
Mhm.
wow. Okay, we have about we're going to say about 6 minutes. Terri. All right. I want to ask a question. If you all, this is a question I have. If you all have any questions, drop them in the comment section. This is Ooh, Terry, it's like we need an hour and a half with this. But I wanted one of the things that I wanted to ask is the purchase of these school supplies. All
Okay.
right.
And so, yeah.
Because school supplies, that's a big thing parents talk about. We think we have this big school supply list. Is that the same for the country, all the countries that you've been to? When you look at South Korea and Middle East, China, Vietnam, do they give parents these big long lists? How does that work? School supply list.
So I will start with Seoul because the tuition is very high. The children, once they pay tuition, the school provides everything.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
just unlimited amount of resources. In Saudi
Mm-hmm.
Arabia, however, we had a lot of difficulties with that because of the way the company was run. So for us dedicated teachers, we're out on the weekends. I think it's called Jahir. It starts with a J. If I'm saying our Jahir bookstore, we stayed in that bookstore all the time.
So you
one of my
had to
colleagues
purchase
was
all
like,
of the supplies for your students yourself. You did not get any funding for that?
we had, but it was the ordering process was so complicated sometimes,
Okay.
or you were always waiting for signatures. You know, when you're a teacher, you want your stuff. And so
Right.
we would just get it ourselves.
Wow. Wow.
We set up an office at one of my colleagues' houses. He said, I'm buying my own printer. I'm buying my own laminator. I'm just come over to my house.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
And so we were buying ourselves. But in Shanghai, like I said before, the tuition is very high for these schools. So of course there's so many resources provided.
Okay. What about South Korea?
In South Korea as well.
Okay.
Resources
and what about
provided.
Vietnam now? What about
In
Vietnam?
Vietnam, there's that balance again of purchasing, putting in a purchase request. There's a lot of things I still purchase myself because it's faster and easier. Because putting in a purchase request just takes more time.
Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see.
Yes, but the students, typically the students don't have to buy anything because their tuition covers all of their educational expenses and materials.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, all right, parents, you heard that, right? So there's that give and take. They pay that high tuition, but because our children are in public schools, parents, donate those supplies, and the list has gotten longer. Okay. Let's see. What about let's see. We talked about parent village support. What about curriculum and freedom to add different activities? Do you have to follow do teachers create their own schedule, or are you all doing lesson plans, and are they looking at those lesson plans? Because when I left teaching, that was one thing, we had to have lesson plans out by Monday, and there was the principals coming around, every principal or assistant principal is coming around making sure that those lesson plans are in there and you're teaching directly what is on the curriculum. So what is that like?
I'm so thankful that I don't deal with that. We have curriculum planning, unit planning, scope and sequence planning, but something I've never had to experience was checking lesson plans or having to submit them. The only time we've ever had to submit lesson plans is for observation. So you know when your formal observation is coming up, and you will need to submit that plan so that whoever's observing can have a good snapshot. But the expectation in the schools I worked in has always been, well, it's documented. We know where the work is. And it's continuous, but also that your lesson plan and your daily plan can change at any time based on what the kids knew the day before or how they did on the test. So it's constantly changing. So the unit plans were more important than the daily lesson plan.
So how did you all have a way of evaluating the children to make sure that the children were on level, that they were grasping the information? Was there some type of daily or weekly evaluation that you all did with them?
Yes. So in South Korea, most of the early childhood work we did was anecdotal notes. So our reports were pages of paragraphs.
Wow.
Which I loved because you can be more personal. In Saudi Arabia, we had report cards, but our reporting system was still not very formal as we did not have a curriculum department. In Shanghai, that's something that was continually to be improved, as with private schools, you have a curriculum coming in or instead of a program coming in.
Mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
were Lucy Calkins Teachers College when I
Oh,
was there,
oh
and moved away from that the past few years. But also we brought in Bridges math program. But
wow.
when it
Okay.
came to assessment, there was still consistent issues with the accuracy. And before
Mm.
I departed, the school moved
Mm-hmm.
towards standards-based learning, which it takes a long time to create that. and to
Yeah.
it takes a long time, and it takes a team of
Mm-hmm.
people to do that. And that's something that I hope to build into the school I'm currently at in Vietnam to
Mm-hmm.
help to have more accurate reporting.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
as far as consistent rubrics, consistent assessments, and just understanding assessment, because there is a very different view of test and assessments in various parts of the world.
Really? Okay. Listen, this has been so good. As we are closing, my last question I want to ask you, the freedom of religion. I want to ask two things. Freedom of religion in the schools, like to pray or express your faith. Is it the same in the U.S.? You know, in the U.S., they said church and state do not mix. Is that the same across in other countries as well?
It depends on when you are. So in Saudi, because I was in it's a Muslim country,
Mm-hmm.
I played instrumental worship music all the time, frequently.
Wow. Wow.
I was never, no one, most people didn't know what it was. It was peaceful
Uh-huh.
music. And so even
Uh-huh.
my
Uh-huh.
colleagues who are
Uh-huh.
Muslim, they would navigate to my room and we just love to be here. It's so relaxing and peaceful. I'm like, come on.
Wow. Wow.
And
And any questions you all have for Terri, drop them in the comments as drop them in the comments. And I want to know, parents, how do you all support your teachers throughout the year? All right. How do you all support your teachers throughout the year? Teachers give. I know if you have a great teacher, listen, because they're in that teacher's care in the US from sometimes 7 a.m. until sometimes 3:30, 4 o'clock if they're in the after school. They're in that teacher's care. So how are you supporting your teachers? How do you give support to your child's teacher throughout the year? What do you feel that support is that you need to give? And then Terri, tell us about that. And if you have you had any Christian teachers? Let me know. And how did that affect I want to know with these parents, have you all had any Christian educators? If they're Christian educators on here, how did you all manage and to be able to incorporate that with church and state not being able to mix? So Terri, tell us about that real quick about that freedom.
So in China, because we were at a Lutheran school, we were in China, so we did have to tone it down. My first year, it felt amazing. I was like, oh my goodness, we can have crosses, we can sing This Little Light of Mine, we can sing the songs, we can do chapel. We called it chapel, not assembly.
Wow.
But something happened with the media and the news after my first year. So the second year we came back, we had to shut that all down. We had to tone it down.
Wow.
So we had to tone it down. We had to start calling it assembly and not chapel. We had to take the religious symbols away. And then it became, the children could invite or ask to pray, or the children could ask for the music, but we could not insist that they
voluntarily do it. Right. Gotcha.
Voluntarily.
Okay.
Yes. And so one song, the song, oh, the Lord's been good to me. And so I thank the Lord. So I took that song and it was always my, the children that knew it, but I changed the words, but still kept the tune.
Yeah.
Oh, the earth's been good to me. And so I thank the earth. And I think I kept that for over 10 years, I want to say. I said, well, we'll change the words, we'll keep it, and how can we still give thanks? In that way. Here in Vietnam, I still play my worship music. I still have my prayers on my wall. I have a teacher prayer group at the school. We gather together to pray sometimes and invite others. But this is a country that does ancestral worship. So in some offices, they do have their altars and they pray as well.
Wow.
and they burn their incense as well. We pray in different
Wow.
ways, but it's not something that we've been asked to abstain from.
Okay.
So it has not interfered with our day to
And they don't
day.
try to get you all to do ancestral
No,
worship. Okay.
no,
Okay.
no.
All right.
But
So
when we talk about prayer, they say let's pray. I pray every day when I come into school that we're gonna have a good day. We talk about how that they're still praying. I don't know who they're praying to. I don't know who they're praying to. We talk about these things in different ways. But
got you.
I do have Christian educators and colleagues that I work with, and there are a lot
Okay.
of Catholics actually in Vietnam.
Wow. Wow. Terri, this has been so good. As in closing, I want you all to our hashtag world teachers. We appreciate our teachers. Hashtag world teachers. Go ahead and drop that in the comments. Terri, I want you. Thank you to all
Thank
of our
you. Thank you.
teachers across the world, our teachers here in the U.S., here where we are in Richland County, Charleston County. Listen, right here in the U.S., all over the U.S., we all have family members. We all have people that we love, children that are all over the U.S. And then we have children that are not in the U.S. that have teachers like Terri that are foreign passport holders, right? And they are working, and their children are over there. And you have people like Terri that God put a call on her heart to go over there and teach. As we're giving last words, please, as Terri's thinking about her last words, go ahead and drop in there. World teachers, let's thank a teacher. Say thank you. Thank you to a teacher. Listen, the job is not easy when you have 15, 18, 20, 26 children in a classroom. You all, it is not easy. Speaking from experience. Terri, I want you to tell us any last words. How do you pour back into yourself? Because teachers face burnout all the time.
Yes.
How do you pour back into yourself being in a foreign country? And any last words that you have? Tell us, how do you get replenished, right? Because, tell us that. And then in closing.
So I just got back to morning workouts, starting at 6:30 a.m. at least 3 times a week. Been consistent the past month, so that's very helpful. I've started playing pickleball with a colleague now. And that's one of our ways we say pickleball is better than therapy. we talk while we play. Prayer, taking downtime. And teachers, when you have a break or a minute, go shut the door, turn the lights off, and just breathe for a minute. Because it's hard, and the things are changing in society, and children have so many distractions and so many things coming at them, and they're with teachers all day. You play a very big role in their lives. So know that even the smallest moment or smallest phrase or teaching moment can be impact for a lifetime. I still have my kindergarten, first grade teachers that I remember. In second grade, hi, Miss Jackson. So take care of yourselves. Sometimes laugh. You got to laugh to keep from crying. On days. And if there are any of you that are interested in having pen pals, I am happy to connect with elementary teachers and classes and connect my teachers with classes to share cultural experiences, because I want children to get back into writing. I think that's something that's lost, like handwriting a letter and sharing experience with each other's outside of emails and text and social media. I just really want to see that craft back into play. And I would love to connect with teachers in the USA.
Thank you. Thank you, Terri. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Listen, if you all enjoyed this, share this video out with someone. And remember to give a thumbs up on this video. Let's share it out to more people. We want, if you've not subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. I think this is something, if you know a teacher, tag them, and remember to tell them thank you. Until next time, remember to light it up.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing from some of you.
Yes.